to go ahead and enter your name and your university. It's nice to see where everyone's from. Nice to see some familiar names in the chat. So we're happy to have you here. Again, I'm Lee Dillard. Welcome to our webinar. I'm at the University of North Georgia and one of the co-chairs of the convention this year. My other co-chairs are Kevin Stemler and Shannon Schrader. What we're going to do is just go through some of the highlights of convention, go through sort of why you should get excited about submitting something, and then we'll leave plenty of time for questions at the end. So we ask that you add your school and your name in the chat box. Then there is the Q&A function that we'll use as well. You'll also notice on this slide that we've got a QR code that takes you directly to englishconvention.org. If you want to follow along with our with some of our pages that we're going to reference, you can, but also just know that englishconvention.org, that's essentially the main repository of all the information you'll need about convention. So again, we welcome you here and we're glad to see you. So in terms of what we're going to do, again, we'll talk about why you should attend convention and then go through the different kinds of paper types and kind of presentation types that you'll be able to submit, and then a brief overview of how to submit or sort of what the process looks like. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to talk about some of the highlights of convention.
Okay, thank you. In the last slide, you saw the picture of Pittsburgh from Mount Washington, which is all the more reason for you to want to come to Pittsburgh. That's how beautiful the city is. And since I live here, I should know. Actually, the hotel that you'll be staying at is the Wyndham Grand, which is in that photograph, right at the very triangle there, which we call the point, where the three rivers come together to form one. This year's convention is going to launch on Wednesday night. And the reason we always start on Wednesday, but this year we're launching it as a kind of beginning of a literary festival. So our Lit Fest is going to start with two local writers from the Pittsburgh area, Claire Beams and Diana Choi Nguyen. And they will be doing a performance for you and then signing books. Then every day throughout the convention, we have major keynote speakers who are all listed here. Our first, the second keynote, or actually she'll be the third for the second night, is our common reader author, Natalie Diaz. And she'll be speaking. She'll also be doing a workshop as part of our convention. And then for the next day, we have Cynthia Katahara doing on Friday an afternoon session and a book signing. And then on Friday or Sunday, Saturday, let's try that day, we'll be doing Benjamin Alire-Sainz, who will be presenting, and then we'll also be attending our award ceremony. Benjamin has requested that he be allowed to give out the Stemler-Dennis LGBT Ampersand Award this year as part of his performance. But the other thing that's changing this year is we're having more of a highlight on professional development for students, alumni, and for our faculty as well. And part of that will be a 2-day Lit Festival, we're calling it. And we will have various vendors from the city of Pittsburgh, various bookstores. Our main bookstore is an independent one called White Whale Books, which you'll want to check out in advance. I suggest you go to their website because in advance of coming to Pittsburgh, you'll be able to participate in a lot of their online events. They do poetry readings, book discussions. They're a really great group. But the Lit Fest will be running on Friday and Saturday, and it will take place opposite of any student presentations. You'll have a choice of attending one of 5, however many we are able to offer sessions, where you'll be able to maybe attend a workshop with local writer Sherry Flick doing flash fiction, or a session with Cynthia Katahara talking about writing for a YA or children's book audience. So all the authors you see on this slide will also be doing workshops either independently or as part of our Lit Fest celebration. And we are asking you to stay through Saturday if you can, because our event will not end till later in the day on Saturday than what we've typically been doing. We'll have our award ceremony at the end, and then that night you'll have a chance to actually explore more of the city. There will be lots of cultural events. I know offhand right now there's a 2 blocks away is the Pittsburgh Opera performing Madame Butterfly. The Pittsburgh Public Theater at the O'Reilly is doing Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and a lot of the other things have not been announced yet, but I will personally keep you all posted as we go because that's my job. So this is pretty self-explanatory. The main reason you come to a convention is you might want to present some of your creative work. You might want to present an academic paper or nonfiction essay. But if and that's the great thing here, because it's part of your professional development. This will help you get into grad schools. This will help you get into writing programs. This will also help you with the job market, or even applying for internships through Sigma Tau Delta, or for any kind of scholarships. It will also give you a chance to attend sessions, whether you're presenting or not, to hear what your classmates are doing around the world. And that's one of the really great privileges of this, is you get to see the quality of work being produced from people like you who you don't know yet. And that's the other reason to come to convention. We always say that it happened to the three of us, and it happens to everybody that comes for the first time every year. They say that they found their place, they found their people. And that's the reason why the three of us are doing this work on this convention, because we want you to find your place in people too, just like we continue to do each year. So you'll also have a chance to participate in various other activities, academic ones, including Research in the Round, which we'll talk about later, some roundtables, and like I said, the Lit Fest. In addition to that, it gives you a chance just to meet other faculty from around the world. You get to meet the board, the central office staff who you are always getting emails from, and now you'll be able to put a face to them and know who it is that's helping you with all of your problems or issues. And then this year too, our student leadership has been working very hard to create a new book club element. And you'll be seeing this week sometime probably book club kits. And these are designed to help you with chapter activities, and they're designed to help you with service projects, and they're designed to help you feel like you have a place in the organization, whether you can attend the convention in person or not. But what we hope you can do is find creative ways to get here. You can see here, if you're a member of Sigma Tau Delta, Sigma Kappa Delta, or if you're an alumni from either group, you're eligible to submit your work for presentation. And I'd like to add that if your work is not submitted, because we get so many submissions each year, you're still welcome to come, because we need people to moderate sessions. We need people to attend and just enjoy themselves. And so if you're not coming, you can still attend professional development workshops and potentially get funding from your chapter because of that. The other value of attending is that you get to hear 5 super famous, wonderful people who have some connection to our organization or to Pittsburgh, that you will be able to work with, get books signed by, go to workshops with, and feel like you're connected with your profession before you even graduate.
It's to Shannon.
Yes. Yeah. So this is me. The question, what can students submit really to convention, but also, of course, in addition to students, we'll talk about alumni and even faculty options. Students are allowed to submit one work, either a critical essay or a creative piece. And that piece, you can see on the screen there, it describes the kinds of creative works that we've seen in the past. But, no matter the academic interest you have, we have space for you to do submitting. So those papers are wide ranging, and you will be surprised, I think, to find out how many people have something that they're submitting that they have in common with you. In addition, if you choose to work with the Common Reader. Again, Natalie Diaz, When My Brother Was an Aztec. If you do a work that is either critiquing that text or that is in conversation with that text, so even creative works that are using Diaz's text as inspiration, as, sort of a leaping off point for your own creative work, you can submit an additional time. This time, making sure that you identify that your second submission is on the Common Reader. And as soon as you say that, we understand that you've been given permission essentially to do a second submission. We also will let you do roundtable submissions, and the advantage here, right, is that if you don't have a fully formed critical essay, you can work with a group of students to come up with a roundtable on that topic. And each of you will speak in a small way to that topic, and then you will open a conversation with the whole room. So we offer those 3 ways for students to submit. I think we're ready for the next one. So here again, paper submissions, critical essays. Let's talk very quickly about these. You are submitting something one time. Once it's accepted, we don't want additional revisions to go on. That's going to happen for everything that you're submitting, right? So you submit your paper, you're keeping it within 2,000 words. I cannot explain to you how important that is, right? That excludes your title, your your in-text citations, your end-of-text citation, or any footnotes that you're not going to present. But that 2,000 word limit is a really important one. You're going to select from topics as broad ranging as the Common Reader, to gender studies, to specific niche areas that are going to help us understand not only your critical essay, but also where it goes in the program. And then finally, you're going to have a chance to select keywords that indicate your themes, plural if you have them, your genre, any authors about which you're writing, and your methodology. I think next screen talks about the creative works. In the same way that you are submitting and trying to keep within your limited amount, here too we have that 2,000 word limit, or if you're doing poetry and you need to time yourself, a 15-minute time limit. So whatever your submission is, it needs to stay within those parameters. You are allowed to choose between submitting poetry or submitting prose. You can see prose is wide-reaching. The one thing I'll add there is if you have flash fiction, you probably have a collection of that. If you have poetry, you are able to submit a single poem. Keep in mind, right, you're competing against entire collections, but if you have that one poem that really shines for you, you have a chance to submit it here. And in the same way that you did for critical essays, you select from a drop-down menu that helps us to understand where your poetry or your prose fits within genres and within themes. Those paper submissions on the Common Reader. So Diaz's work is, and I think we'll hear, if you have questions for Kevin, he can talk for a long time about Diaz's work. He's actually the one who brought it to us as a recommendation, and it is fantastic. I am working my way through it and already teaching from it for the poetry class that I'm teaching right now. But you are allowed to submit one additional text or your only submission over the common reader. We're hoping then that some people will engage critically with this text, that you're willing to dig in and use your skills of critical thinking and your understanding of the poetic process to really break it down and talk about it. But you also have a chance to do this second, this creative option. I think that one takes a little bit of explaining. And so we do ask that you give just a brief statement. Here's how this connects to the themes, the topics, a specific poem in Diaz's collection. And I think that's it. Yeah. So the last, is this my last or penultimate slide for me right now? Let's talk about some helpful tips. You heard it before. I'm going to say this to you 1,000 times, that I'm starting with the last bullet point there first. If you go over 2,000 words on this, you may very well be disqualified. We might not even get your work to judges. So please take that one incredibly seriously. The fun bit, though, start your submission early. Start your process early, long before October 30th. Yes, that's our deadline. We know some people will come in at the last second, but please start your process early. Involve your chapter advisor and others, right, in your chapter. But involve your chapter advisor for help with revision, for help with, cutting down to hit that 2,000 word mark. Most of the advisors know more about what the submissions are expected to be than the students who are submitting for the first time, right? But involve your community. Carefully follow those guidelines. As Lee mentioned at the very start, if you're following along, if you're looking at the website, even as we speak tonight, you will see that each and every type of submission has its own set of guidelines. Follow those carefully. Choose a title that's going to resonate with readers. Obviously, this is your first chance to reach out to readers, but also consider its length. While we no longer have that 50 character requirement, which you might be familiar with if you've ever submitted before, we may have to cut off the end of your very long title to include it in the app or to include it in the program. So make sure that you are succinct there. Now is not the time for that second colon, right? Be short and concise there. And finally, don't identify yourself in any way on your submission, not in the title of your file, not at the top of the page, not in a running header. Please remove all identifying material. Our judges read your work anonymously, and we want to make sure that we keep that process pure. Convention awards.
So this is back to Kevin. Let me just say briefly, all of this stuff that we're presenting is kind of taken from the website. So we pulled from the website. We're referring to the website. So the website is really that portal of information. I also see that some of you are starting to type in the Q&A window. Awesome. Type questions as they come up. It might be, in fact, that we answer them along the way, but go ahead and type them as they come up. So Kevin, we'll talk a little bit more about convention awards related to these papers.
Okay, so yes, to pick up on where Shannon left off, for instance, with the Common Reader, not only are you able to submit a second paper, but you're also eligible for a second prize then too. And the Common Reader has its own award category. And that's one of the other perks of being able to write something in response to the Common Reader. And if you feel isolated in your reading of When My Brother Was an Aztec, as I have, then you might realize that as soon as book club is launched, we're starting with Natalie Diaz. And the five or six poems that they're going to be addressing might spark ways of you thinking about how you might write something for the Common Reader submission as well. So I thought I'd mention that. We will have a separate slide coming up, but a couple of things I want to point out here are brand new awards. You see that last year we were able to award $12,000. This year we'll be awarding even more because we have additional funding and because we have additional awards. One of the newest ones is the LULAC Award. We are going to be having a special category for particular work that would help our sponsorship with LULAC. So for Hispanic and Latino heritage, we will have that special category. The Willa Cather Foundation reached out to Sigma Tau Delta, and they were very impressed with the idea that we were using Willa Cather as our spotlight author, and that our convention theme was based on one of Cather's novels, one of ours. And if you have been following the footnotes posts, you know that Willa Cather is a Pittsburgher as well. Before she settled out in Nebraska, we owned her. And some of her best work was written here in Pittsburgh as well. And she won the Pulitzer Prize for one of ours while she was here. And so we will have various Willa Cather scholars speaking at convention, but the Willa Cather Foundation was interested in partnering with us to create this new award for any students who are submitting work on our spotlight author, Willa Cather. And not only will the winners be getting cash prizes, but the top 3 papers are going to be published in the Willa Cather Review, which is an internationally famous review and the kind of opportunity that will help launch careers for people. So that's one of the things we were very excited about with that new partnership and that new award. And again, we have awards for all different groups. Sigma Kappa Delta has their own awards. We have the awards for outstanding papers. When one of our former board members passed away, we created the Beth DeMeo Poetry Award, which is specific for papers about poetry writing. And then I think if we move to the next slide, I'll be able to address this one now. You might see that my name matches the first name on this next award, and that's intentional. If you're a fan of Mr. Rogers, you might know that he grew up outside of Pittsburgh, and actually my same hometown, and we both ended up in Pittsburgh. He became a little bit more famous. But one of the things Mr. Rogers was famous for saying was, "I like you just the way you are." And that same sentimentality is what prompted the Stemler Dennis LGBT Ampersand Award. My husband, Larry Dennis, the other name there, and I decided that we were trying to fill in a gap for student work that qualified in the LGBT category to be recognized. And this became very important to us. So this will be the 4th year we're able to give this award. Each year it's grown with additional donations and contributions beyond just our own. And this year will be an exceptional year because we worked out a partnership with Lambda Literary. And this is new to the convention as well. As part of our partnership with Lambda, we were offered the opportunity to ask for judges from our students and our faculty from all of our organizations, the National English Honor Society, advisors, the advisors and students from Sigma Tau Delta and Sigma Kappa Delta, as well as our alumni were eligible. And we had over 60 people apply. And Lambda has agreed to reserve 15 spots every year. And any of our judges have agreed that their work is, instead of receiving the honorarium, it will be donated back to Sigma Tau Delta so that we can award additional prizes for awards, for writing contests, or for LGBT speakers, which we try to sponsor every year. And the new thing is that Lambda sponsors the Emerging LGBT Writers retreat each summer, one of the most professional retreats that you could attend. And they've agreed that one of our winners, any of our winners in the award category for the Ampersand Award, will be eligible to submit their work for consideration. And the faculty for the summer retreat will choose one of them, and they will be able to attend for free this writing retreat. And this will happen each year from here on in now. So this is a major development for us too. It's an extra perk for the people who are actually fortunate enough to win the LGBT ampersand award. So then in order to be considered for this award, your work has to address either LGBT themes in the critical works or in your creative work. And then it has here how to be eligible. Two of the categories you have to click in order to make sure that your work is read by a series of 7 to 9 judges to make you eligible for this. This is the award I mentioned earlier that is given to critical essays, not creative work. But this is for critical essays because Beth DeMeo is a wonderful person, but devoted to poetry. So this was the way that we could honor her the most, was by creating this special award for her. This is only the 4th year this award will be given as well. So I believe that that's the last of my points.
It is. It is. So that's to me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the roundtable. Shannon talked a little bit about it before, and also talk about research in the round. So 2 other opportunities aside from the paper submissions, from creative critical submissions, that give you an opportunity to present in different ways. So as Shannon said, the roundtable really is an opportunity to have a discussion, to come to convention with a cluster of people. We hope that that cluster of people is maybe from some from your chapter, but some from other chapters as well, and to talk around a central idea. The notion is that this isn't a way to just read a paper, but instead to talk about a topic, and also to engage your audience in as part of the conversation. So last year, for instance, I did a roundtable on value added, or sort of skills that you learn in English classes that apply across disciplines. And so I had students who were in multiple majors from different schools talking about what they had learned in English, but also what they learn in other classes that they bring back to English, to their English studies as well. Some of them are not destined to go to graduate school or in English, but are working in very different fields. And so just to be able to talk about those topics with a group of people, but then to be able to engage the audience in that conversation as well. So that's really the main idea of what a roundtable is. You'll see here the requirements for submitting a roundtable. The way that I like to approach this is that I ask my students if there are topics that they're interested in. So I'd encourage y'all, those of you who are here, to think about, are there topics you're interested in that you're not going to present a paper about? And if there are topics, then ask your advisor to help out in helping in crafting a roundtable. Your advisors probably know what roundtables are, but you can also reach out to your student leadership, and they can help spread the word about that. The regents, who are the kind of advisor leadership of the chapters and of the organization, they can also help spread the word about topics. But it really starts with just an idea. So if you have an idea and you already know you're going to present that, you're going to submit that creative piece, then think about getting some people together to talk about another topic that interests you. So we have the roundtable proposal guidelines here. I'm not going to go through those because you can read, but basically the concept is come up with an idea and start talking. So let's talk about the next slide. Research in the round is a slightly different format. It's a little bit chaotic, but it's basically like speed dating, but for English majors. It's essentially, it again starts with a good idea. We have both table hosts and participants. The table hosts are the ones who lead the conversation, but they're really fast-paced conversations. These conversations last no more than 9 minutes. And the table hosts sit at one table for the whole time, and participants rotate around to different tables to talk to them. So it is a really kind of fast-paced, it's loud, it's a little chaotic, but it's so much fun. It's an idea that Shannon and I came up with several years ago when we worked on the Atlanta convention. It worked really well there, and we've continued to develop it. And I think that if anyone in the room has participated in it, they would attest to how fun it is too. as with roundtables, this starts with an idea. Is there a concept or something that you've thought about but haven't yet written a paper about? How might you develop that a little bit more to just come up with 2 thoughtful questions about it? The application process is really simple here in that the requirements are essentially you come up with a title or sort of justification of your, well, an explanation of your topic, and then you come up with 2 questions. So this is also really geared toward those of us who are teachers and who want to think about ways of asking good questions, questions that lead our audience into participating. This is not a format that's geared toward providing knowledge. It's a format that really is about having a conversation. So you can see the guidelines there, how to submit, and it is again a pretty straightforward process. But just one more way that you could participate, and you can still participate in a roundtable and a creative or critical paper, and the research in around as well. So that's just one more option. So
All right.
next is Shannon.
Yes. So for those of you who are hanging in there, I promise you we're almost wrapping up. We're almost ready for your questions. We want to just touch on the submission process. You're going to find that there is a sort of portal this time for before you submit. I am thinking of it as the bouncer. This is, your quick place where you put in your name exactly as it appears on your membership certificate, exactly as it appears there. And that gives us, confirmation that you are an active member, that you're eligible. So we don't have anybody who goes through this process and finds out they should not have been applying. All right. If you're an alum, you're going to have a chance still to pick the school at which you were first inducted. And so you will have a chance then still to apply. It's going to filter you through and send you right to our link. So I think that might be as much as we want to say here, except to say, Ex Ordo itself, which is our submission site, is going to ask you many questions. It does require some reading of instructions. Please take those carefully, right? And remember, if you don't finish this, you can save your progress and go back and finish a submission later. But you want to make sure that you get in, try to get started as soon as you can so that you know any, pitfalls you're going to experience. You get in and you realize, oh, I needed a long and a short abstract for that roundtable. Now you have a chance to fix that. I think, yeah. Next is submission confirmation registration. Let me tell you that the submission deadline, October 30th, is really the only deadline, the only date we're going to focus on right now. What you need to know is once you submit, you will get confirmation back that we got your submission, and then you will get further confirmation that we received the application, that our judges read it, and they, they'll give you the news. Yes, you're in. No, you're not. But can you participate in other ways? Right? And so as Kevin mentioned earlier, even the student who is not accepted for presentation still has a lot of ways to participate and be involved in the convention. So please make sure that you still take that step on. The last part there, we are going to make sure that you register and that you register in advance of convention so that we know, who's coming, who's been accepted to read and then agreed to, come and read. I think that's, is this our last slide?
It is. It is.
How exciting. Yeah. So convention registration, just a quick, few details here. We're going to have one set fee this time. There are no levels. Either you pay the set fee in advance or you pay the on-site registration, but it's a little bit different this time because with your registration, you will get a breakfast buffet. You will get a boxed lunch that we're going to have on a different day, right? And then we'll have snacks and refreshments available. So, coffee, tea, available at several times over the course of the convention. So that set amount is really to cover all of those costs, as well as the cost of bringing in such amazing speakers. And registration opens, I think, in December, and you need to be registered, well in advance so we know to put you in the program. And I think that leaves us at a great place for your questions now. So what questions do you have for us?
So Danielle, I think that we addressed this question. If you submit whatever you submit, as Shannon said, you go through that process. So you submit it and then it's out of your hands. Then we send it out to evaluators, and then you'll get the decision. And once you get the decision, if it's a yes, then you confirm that you want to participate, you register. If it's a no, you look at other ways to get involved. As Kevin said, still coming to convention, volunteering is a great opportunity. But there is a kind of follow-up process, even though there's no revision to your work once you submit it. But I hope that answers your question.
So the answer is yes, right? We do expect it to be unpublished. That said, there is some leeway. If you had a chapter chapbook, for example, that you put together, I think that probably would not constitute the kind of publication that would make you ineligible. But in general, yes, your creative work needs to be unpublished. Good question.
Yes, we also had the situation where 1 year a student presents something that becomes part of a collection that gets published by the following year, and they come back and present again, but they tend to try out new work. It's a way of feeling out for a new audience how the new stuff you're working on works. So that's one of the other perks to not using something that's already been published.
Yeah, good point.
So Danielle, your question about if you don't want to submit anything but still want to attend, as soon as the registration window opens, then go ahead and register. But I would also find out from your chapter if anyone else is interested in registering, to be able to share hotel costs, that kind of thing. We've worked hard to get a good rate at the hotel. And we think it's a great location. We were just there. Shannon, Kevin, and I were just there for the fall board meeting. But talk to other people in your chapter about also attending, and then try to get involved. One of the best ways, I think, to be involved in convention is, if you're not presenting, is to volunteer at the registration desk. Of course, to attend the speakers, to get books signed, to go hear papers, mark up the program to figure out what papers you want to attend. There will be loads to do, even if you don't want to submit something. And maybe you just want to sort of see what it's like, because I think it can be maybe a little intimidating at first, but it is certainly full of opportunities, even if you don't want to present something.
Although I think it's only intimidating until you arrive.
Right.
Once you get here, you realize, like I said, you find your people, and it's really a lovely group to be part of.
Yeah.
So the presenter decisions this year, our expectation is to have those out before Thanksgiving. That gives people a little bit of time to, at the end of the semester, then to really start that fundraising push as needed, but then also to be prepared to accept and to go ahead and register. So for most things, that will be the deadline.
Can non-members attend? Yes, absolutely. So we just ask non-members to also register, especially if they're going to attend multiple sessions. But yeah, I mean, we've had in the past parents attend sessions as a way to hear their child present, and that's obviously a really exciting opportunity. But we've also had parents who have parents, friends who have wanted to attend the full thing and go and get books signed and come to the awards ceremony and do sort of all the things. So, yeah, being able to include other non-members is a possibility. The limitation is that non-members cannot present, but non-members can certainly attend.
No. That's the quick answer, right? With the award process, is not announced, and I'll let Kevin talk more about this because he has even more hands-on in the awards. But those that comes at the end of the convention, and the requirement is that you attended and presented.
Yes. And those are the two important things. In order to be eligible for the awards, you have to have attended the convention, presented your work, and then you're eligible. So we have the winners in reserve, but we check it against the attendance because if somebody who wins first prize has not presented, they're removed, and the person who is in second prize place goes up to first place. And that's the most fair way for rewarding the work that is. It's meant to be convention prizes, and so it rewards the work that was actually presented. But sometimes we don't know who's going to actually win in what category until the day of, because we find out somebody didn't show up and the person who presented here is eligible in this category now. So we're working constantly to reward as many people as possible. And that will take place at the very end of the convention on Saturday afternoon. And Lee probably remembers the exact time for it, but I don't.
He doesn't remember the exact time, but stick around and be there. And the details are on the website. But also, I should say, with the awards, everyone who submits a paper, all of those are eligible for awards. So if you submit a paper in British literature, it's going to be evaluated in that category. But there are some of these special awards, the ones that Kevin mentioned, that require you to highlight certain keywords. And this is why those keywords are so important, that we make sure that your paper is evaluated in all of the categories that it needs to be considered in. So, but by submitting a paper, it's going to be evaluated. So everyone who submits a paper is in effect eligible. And the award ceremony is really exciting. So we are really hoping that people will stick around through Saturday to experience that, to hear, oh, I heard them present their paper, or surprise, it's me, I won an award. It's all, the whole range is really exciting.
And in fact, we changed it so we are no longer having a luncheon and award ceremony taking place at the same time because the noise interferes with the honoring of the students who win. So this year, that's why we're having the food spread out over several days and more opportunities for snacks and beverages throughout the convention, so that the award ceremony will take place in an official setting where everyone will get to see you and applaud for you and know who you are. So that was a better way to do it. And I'd like to go on to Mariana's question. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. But you do not have to notify your chapter if you're an alumni member. However, if you're still in touch with your chapter, or even if you had a good relationship with them, you may want to notify them to find out if they could take you along into their hotel reservations, because it would save you a lot of money. So that's something for you to consider. But you're not obligated to ever return as part of your chapter once you're an alumni member. You can submit and present independently.
But I will say that we work very hard to help our alumni get there. If we can do any of that, room sharing, maybe some of our food budget can cover you as well. So your chapter may well want to support your attendance.
Mustafa, I did just add a link in your question about how you find your chapter advisor. There is a chapter directory on our website, and so you should be able to find your chapter and then find your chapter advisor. If you can't, then just send an email to englishconvention@niu.edu. That's our kind of catch-all email address to answer questions like that. And
Yes.
so we'll be happy to help you that way. But check out that chapter directory. And I know that with some big chapters or with online chapters, there's maybe some uncertainty as to who chapter advisors are. So that chapter directory should help you there. Next question. Do all accepted chosen submissions become presenters?
Only if they accept. But if they accept, yes, absolutely. So if you're asking sort of what our rate is, you know, what percentage of students go ahead and accept that, I would say that's really high. The approval rating, the acceptance chosen submission rating depends on the year and on the venue, the amount of space we have. So I hope we've kind of covered all of that. But if we haven't, you know, get back to us, ask again a different way.
That is our last question on the board. Does anyone else in the room have another question? Another flurry came in. Would presenters read their work word for word? Yeah, great question. Great question. So the way that this works, and it's completely understandable if you don't know how this works, because so many of our presenters are first-time presenters. But yes, essentially, the way that presentations work in English is that you read your work word for word. So that's why it's especially important that you do the work now to revise, to work with your advisor, to make sure that that piece, whether it's creative or critical, really represents what you would like to say. So also think about reading it aloud, see how it sounds. But yes, you will be reading aloud, so you'll have your paper there. For most of our rooms, we'll have a lectern where the presenter will stand behind to present. Standing up just allows you to project your voice a little bit better. But
as you're able.
Yes. Right. But to read your work, and then you'll be on a panel with several other people who are presenting on similar topics. And at the end of that presentation time, you'll take questions. And so whether, again, it's creative or critical, you'll have questions from the audience. This is the time when you respond sort of like you would in classroom discussions. This is the opportunity to maybe talk about things you had to cut, to talk about other ways that you might approach the topic, or other questions that will arise from the audience. But the presentation part is reading word for word.
Kevin, do you want to take this one?
Yes.
It
It is the Wyndham Grand Pittsburgh Downtown. Very difficult to say. Wyndham Grand Pittsburgh Downtown. And that will be it's on all of our posts at the website. So it's easy to find. If you just go to english.org, you'll be able to find the name.
Zoe, it's a great question. Instead of going back to that slide, although I'm sure Naaman can do that behind the scenes, but just to give you two quick numbers: 120 if you register in advance, 150 if you register on site. So that means you decided last minute you're going to show up and participate. Great, but there is some extra cost associated with having to prepare food for someone last minute. So 120 is that flat fee, and you pay that no matter who you are coming to convention.
Is there a minimum age requirement? I don't know. Stumped the co-chairs.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's a good question if you're thinking about bringing a kid, for example, you know, especially we understand they're single parents and their opportunity to attend and participate would require, you know, maybe having a child along. We will say it's, you know, it's a grown-up event. We assume that the people in the room are prepared for mature conversations, and so potentially that could be influential in deciding which speakers or panels or sessions you go to. But beyond that, you know, we don't really have a minimum age requirement. We do have some National English Honor Society students at the high school level who will be attending. And, you know, they'll be with a teacher. And that teacher, of course, is going to guide them through the process. But yeah, you know, I guess if you're going to bring a baby, you'd want to be sensitive to the needs of people in the room. My kids were loud.
And in addition, like Shannon mentioned, whether it's the student presentations or our main speakers, some of the material is mature. You know, and I also wanted to add that the speakers that we have coming this year represent Pulitzer Prize winners, National Book Award winners, Lambda Award winners, Newbery Prize winners. They're really all over the place in terms of their prestige. So these are all major figures in our profession.
Yeah, for sure.
And Danielle, your question about registration deadline just to attend. So the benefit of registering before you arrive is that you would get the $120 fee. I will say that the hotel is going to fill up most likely because we're going to be a big group. We have the whole hotel, but we are going to be a big group. So I would register January, February. I would register by February, and that's just advice. I mean, for my own chapter, getting things together and sort of putting that registration all together and getting the funding and all that happens maybe end of January. But also we recognize that a lot of schools aren't back in session until end of January anyway. So that's one of the reasons we made this just pre-convention fee rather than a staggered fee as we've done in the past. But I would register sooner rather than later. Once you feel certain that you can go, then I would register. And also look for ways to raise money. There are lots of strategies that are featured on our website about how to fundraise. By attending the convention, even if you don't present, you will be eligible to get your chapter's $200 reimbursement. And especially if you're the only person from that chapter, then you can work with your advisor on helping that money defray your own travel costs. So, you know, I think there are a number of ways to be creative about fundraising and that kind of thing, even if you aren't presenting. But yeah, we every year have students who are participants who are presenting, who are not presenting, but are really just enjoying the atmosphere. And we're excited to give y'all this opportunity too.
I would just mention that in order to get that $200, you have to attend the business meeting on Friday.
Yes.
And that's just for the roll call. So you're being represented, you're being recognized, your school's being recognized through your affiliation. And in return, we get the chapter $200 return.
Yes, that's a great point. So I think we've got two more questions on the books. We'll take these two, and then in the interest of time, are going to wrap it up. But this next question, is there a way to see past examples of essays or creative works? Technically, no. But what I always encourage my students to do is to look at past programs. So you can see titles of works, and that can be really revealing. For one thing, it's really encouraging because, as Shannon mentioned, it shows you the breadth of stuff that's being presented. As Kevin said, you're going to find your people here. You're going to be surprised at the really wide range of things that are being presented. Yeah. Another good thing to do is to have a look at our publications. So we also
That's
have
what I was going to say.
And to be able to look at those publications as sort of, those are the best of some of the things that have been presented. But it shows you both critical examples and creative examples across multiple genres of materials that have been presented and then often are presented again or read at convention as award winners or as sort of rectangle printed documents. So I would look at those two examples. I would also talk to other people in your chapter if they've attended convention before, but talk to your advisor too, because really what we're trying to do with this event is model the kind of professional conferences that we have attended as faculty members, as scholars, as artists in our fields. And so by giving y'all, Sigma Tau Delta members, this opportunity, we're really trying to do the same thing that our conferences have done in the past. So it's not that different from the professional conferences that we attend. But that would be my outlet, to look at other examples in that way.
Yeah. Andrew, I read ahead and looked at your question, and I don't think that an archived master's thesis would count as, something that's been published. So as long as it adheres to all of the requirements, it's within the word limit. It doesn't have personal information. It's satisfying the other requirements and guidelines. Then I say go for it.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that some of the brilliant work you've presented in the past, Andrew, appeared as part of your master's thesis. And that's a nice point to make, that the scholarly work people present at convention is often leading into their master's or their dissertation. So it's nice to see you there, Andrew. We're looking forward to seeing you again.
Yes. All right, y'all. I think with that, we'll wrap it up. I want to thank you again for attending this conversation. Thanks for asking great questions and for engaging in this conversation. These slides will be available. I hope you also used the QR code or just made reference to englishconvention.org, which is really the portal for all the information you'll need about convention. And really, if you think you're going to attend, go ahead and do that member verification. Not to sound like NPR fundraising, but get it done tonight. Get it done soon so you can just check one of the things off your list to make sure that you're in the system and can get started. You can go back to that platform multiple times, and but going ahead and getting in there to see how it looks is helpful. So, yeah. Do y'all want to add anything else, Kevin, Shannon?
I just want to thank you. Say thank you to the people who showed up tonight. It's exciting to get to share this. If we convey even a tenth of the enthusiasm we have for the convention, we've done our job, because it is an amazing experience. Often once in a lifetime, my students never forget it.
All right, great. Right. Well, with that,
thank you so much.
Sign off. Thank you again.
We will. Thank you. Take care.